Rock-type special defenses.
That's it, and Charizard in its Mega form, in that Charizard Y, will gain it's the Flying type and the Fire type once again, as same as the normal Charizard. Rock-type damage is going to be really, really important there, and the Seniors Finals just about to get underway. Laya Ballerine on the left side of your screen once again. Zapdos, Snorlax, Charizard, Tapu Lele, Landorus, and Milotic going up against Corey, Elliott, Yuen, Metagross, Tapu Lele, Zapdos, Landorus, Ferian, Tyranitar, and Amoonguss Dwee. You mentioned that Tyranitar is going to be huge here, and one of the things that we were speaking about as well is the opportunity that Corey has to drop flinches. Rock Slide available on Tyranitar, on Landorus, and Iron Head on that Metagross, and going to that Snorlax, which could be going for a belly drum, he needs to be able to have that RNG in his side.
Yeah, Snorlax is just such an offensive threat. Of course, they kind of have this issue where you can either go for a lot of support moves on that Snorlax and then go for one attack, which might leave it vulnerable to maybe getting walled out by maybe that Tyranitar or that Metagross or even the Ghost type, but that's not going to matter in this matchup against Corey. Let's give it up for both of these players right now, these outstanding players, Laya and Corey. Show your support for these players, use that hashtag #PlayPokemon, but again, it's really going to come down to who can take advantage of their Tailwind. You know, you have 3 turns after you set up that Tailwind, who is going to be able to, you know, kind of get out as much damage as they possibly can.
2 trainers, 1 desire. They want to be that Pokemon 2018 Latin American International Championship. Laya Ballerine of Peru, Corey Elliott Wen of Singapore, and we are just about to go into this game. Dwee, we got to see the Pokemon hitting the field right about now, and Laya and Corey are so focused. They need to take the advantage in this first game, and we see Snorlax and Charizard coming out from Laya, going up against Tapu Lele and Zapdos from Corey.
Yeah, and of course, right now, Corey has a pretty decent chance of being able to set up that Tailwind. You do have to respect that Charizard overheat, though. Boosted by the sun, it's going to be doing a lot of damage to that Zapdos. Depending on how that Zapdos over on Corey's side is trained, it might be able to survive it. You know, Zapdos does have some natural bulk built into it in terms of its special defenses, but, you know, that also opens up an opportunity for Laya to possibly set up the Snorlax as well. Tapu Lele over on Corey's side is operating in its terrain of choice, and pretty much it's not actually going to be, the terrain's just going to be weird. It's just going to be the Psychic terrain for the rest of the game because, well, until it expires, and then if either player can reset it as well. So, you know, this Tapu Lele is sitting pretty right here, just going to go for powerful Psychic type attacks.
Charizard fearing electric type damage from that Zapdos, switches into its own Tapu Lele there. So Tapu Lele got to reveal the taunt going into that Snorlax, a really great option to stop it from setting up, should it have gone for a thing like a belly drum, and Tailwind coming out from Corey, setting that speed control straight away, really making the most of his, but Laya, really great play there, understanding there could be a taunt coming out. Tapu Lele going down to about a third of its HP left.
Yep, that's right. Tapu Lele can actually use taunt, and it can actually shut down some setups sometimes. I actually kind of forgot that Tapu Lele could actually use taunt, so smart taunt right there from Corey, just making sure that that Snorlax can't either set up a belly drum or a curse or recycle that berry for later on. So, you know, it might not have worked out that turn, but it's going to work out later on. Smart
protect there from Tapu Lele, not wanting to take any damage as Thunderbolt comes out from Zapdos. It will be chunking onto that Snorlax there, doing a little bit of damage. It's got a very high special defense stat. Psychic going into that Tapu Lele, not taking any damage though, and a return going into that Zapdos. So nice spread, nice chip damage being dropped by both trainers here, positioning their Pokemon into a much more advantageous position moving forward.
Yeah, so Laya actually opting to go for a Psychic into that Tapu Lele slot, maybe expecting something to switch in, or just expecting it to possibly get the KO outright in case that, you know, it just didn't switch out, or, you know, being able to catch it on the switch. So it's not that bad of an idea, you know, just get it out there.
Yeah, and that chip damage might be really important considering this is going to be a Z move. We see the Tapu Lele activating its Z power, going to launch a massive Shattered Psyche into one of Laya's Pokemon. You imagine it could go into that Snorlax there because of that chip damage. It's in Psychic terrain once again, so Tapu Lele will be picking up that Snorlax with its Psychic powers, and this could be huge.
Yeah, and you know, that Thunderbolt was pretty big. Most importantly, actually
gets the knockout!
Gets the KO. Okay. Yeah, that Thunderbolt was actually really nice because it didn't actually activate the berry after Snorlax's Gluttony ability uses it. So Thunderbolt now being used on that Tapu Lele. No paralysis as Tapu Lele on Laya's side, using that Psychic boosted Psychic, hits that Zapdos, gets a KO as well. So really trading that Zapdos for that Snorlax.
So we were talking about this in the last finals that we saw as well, and being able to deny Tailwind a second time in a game is really, really important, especially when your opposing trainer is relying on it so much. And Zapdos going down here, Laya obviously losing Snorlax, which is a very powerful offensive Pokemon, but taking out one of the key supportive linchpins of Corey's team.
Oh, absolutely. And, now Zapdos, if Laya is actually using it, can come in easily and set up Tailwind to take advantage of it later on in the game. Landorus Therian on Corey's side comes in, and it's actually going to be Landorus Therian on Laya's side as well, so these Intimidates are just going to be traded right here. So no Tailwind option for Laya, just really relying on her Pokemon to just be able to withstand the barrage from Corey's team and then try to defeat them from within.
Yep, and Intimidates all round, as you mentioned, Dewey. Both the Landorus having one stage of decreased physical attack, and it's such an important ability for the Video Game Championship Series.
Yeah, and yesterday we actually saw that this Landorus is locked into a move after it makes it. It is the Choice Scarf variant Landorus variant, so Laya is actually going to be able to see what move Corey decides to lock in. Of course, I'm not sure if Laya actually knows that information just yet. Maybe she didn't go home yesterday to watch some tape.
But we see the U-turn coming out from Corey, a very smart move, being able to get a little bit of damage, not very effective, but all-important positioning here. It will retreat to its trainer.
Yeah, now Corey gets to send in that last Pokemon right now. Really just seeing if Laya was going to switch at all, and that's one of the great things about U-turn. It is that Metagross here that's pretty much an offensive juggernaut as Tapu Lele on Corey's side using Moonglass onto the Tapu Lele on Laya's side. It is, just hangs on with just 1 hit point.
1 HP, and the Psychic going into the Metagross. Very nice switch there, not taking too much damage because of its steel typing, and Landorus is going to drop a Rock Slide as well. But more, like, one of the things to really bear in mind here is Tailwind is ticking down for Corey, so Tapu Lele surviving. Again, Tailwind now peters out Metagross, the fastest Pokemon on the field, you'd imagine.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why Metagross is such a strong Mega Pokemon. Once it Mega Evolves, it just has that tough claws ability, and it gets a speed boost from the change in stats. That's crazy.
Yep, and a really good switch from Corey there, using that U-turn, a soft switch, being able to get a little bit of damage off, reposition. He knows that because Landorus is on his side of the field, Laya probably not wanting to drop an Earthquake into that position, so Metagross a little bit freer to come in.
Yeah, I mean, Metagross threatens that Landorus Therian with a possible Ice Punch too, so Laya does have to be a bit careful about what this Metagross is going to do. It is going to be the fastest Pokemon on the field. Charizard switches in, which can take the Ice Punches a lot better than that Landorus, and can even, well, it can take a lot of attacks from that Metagross. Really, Ice Punch is the most damaging move on that Charizard, against that Charizard.
Good switch here, but maybe Corey might have tried to cover that with using a Psychic on his side of the field. But Laya's Tapu Lele outspeeds Corey's, gets the knockout, so there will be no Psychic damage from Corey's side of the field. Charizard a lot safer now as Metagross goes for that Ice Punch, wanting to pick up the knockout into that Landorus. A lovely switch from Laya here. It takes a big amount of damage though, that Tough Claws boost, still making sure that Charizard feels that hit.
Yeah, so the weirdness disappears from the field here. That means that Tapu Lele's Psychics won't be doing as much damage. Landorus Therian on Corey's side does come in. The Intimidate's not going to matter, but most importantly, that Metagross Ice Punch didn't do 50% to that Charizard, but now you have to try to figure out a way to get a Pokemon in to kind of deal with that Landorus Therian, because it is carrying the Choice Scarf. The Landorus Therian can easily just go for a possible Rock Slide here, get the KO on that Tapu Lele, probably get the KO. It will just outright get the KO on that Charizard since it's already been chipped away. So Corey right now in good position to seal the deal here in Game 1.
It'd be interesting to see how Laya's trained her Charizard. Maybe it has access to more speed control as well. I'm not sure if we saw any Tailwind options or if we saw all 4 moves yesterday, but the options on Corey's side of the field, Metagross moving so fast and so quick. If it has a good move to be able to hit this Charizard, it might be able to knock it out before it moves, and also possibly get the knockout onto that Tapu Lele, whichever slot it goes into. As Charizard will Mega Evolve, it will activate its Drought ability, calling to the sun to power up its Fire-type attacks.
Yeah, one thing that might happen here is maybe the Charizard goes for Protect, sacrifice that Tapu Lele, get that Landorus Therian in, use that Intimidate ability just once more, weaken the physical attack stat of, actually the Tapu Lele outspeeds and actually hits that Landorus, so that is some chip damage out there.
And that also reveals a Choice Scarf, I believe.
That is, yeah.
So we see the Landorus going for the Rock Slide here, trying to pick up that knockout onto the Charizard Y, but it goes into the Tapu Lele, picking up that 1 HP that it needed, and Tapu Lele goes down as Metagross once again goes for that Ice Punch, covering the option for a Landorus switch in, but also you saw how much damage that did before anyway.
Yeah, I mean, even then, right now, it's going to come down to whether the Rock Slide can connect on that Charizard. If the Rock Slide misses and Laya's Heat Wave can connect, that actually swings the game in Laya's favor, so it's going to come down to whether or not this Rock Slide can hit.
Yep, this is a situation that many trainers have found themselves in before. Rock Slide, such an awkward move, lots of good damage, that opportunity to flinch, and especially up against Charizard Y, 1 hit could be critical.
This Intimidate might actually allow Landorus Therian to survive a possible Ice Punch too, so it's, wow. maybe Laya definitely knows the calculations better than I do as to how this turn's going to play out. So this is still close. This can still go in Laya's favor.
This is that Rock Slide. It hits both Pokemon. Charizard will go down here. Corey celebrating as he sees that Mega Pokemon for Laya's side of the field. Going back into its Pokeball, returning to its trainer, as we see the opposing Mega Metagross go for the Ice Punch. It is reduced attack now, but it's still enough to pick up the knockout.
Still so much damage.
And Corey takes this first game. Corey Elliott must be so happy with his position now going into the rest of this set.
Yeah, so Laya's going to have to go back to the drawing board here, try to figure out what went wrong in that game. Charizard was forced out early, but if you think back to what happened turn 1, Charizard wasn't the target of any of those attacks. Tailwind came up, and Tapu Lele used Taunt on that Snorlax, so that was really an opportunity for Charizard to maybe go for a very powerful overheat, maybe even get the KO on that Tapu Lele for sure, do a lot of damage to that Zapdos, so maybe the pieces are there, but Laya has to play it a little bit differently and react to Corey differently.
Well, this is one of the things that the best of 3 format really allows trainers to do, is see the value that their opponents put on the certain moves that they've picked for their Pokemon. And now the mind game is, does Laya want to bring the same Pokemon in the same positions, or react and use maybe her own Tailwind to allow her to match Corey? Or if she leads with Charizard again, go for that damage, as you said, onto that Zapdos and deny the Tailwind outright.
Yeah, and great board recognition right there from Corey, if you think about it. He saved that Landorus for last just to be able to come in and exert a lot of pressure onto that Charizard that was hiding in the back for Laya. So Laya was really banking on that Charizard to be able to come in at the end of the game and just kind of clean up with the Heat Wave or maybe even overheat somewhere. So well played by Corey to preserve that Landorus for later on.
This is such an important Pokemon to this metagame. Every metagame that appears in Landorus form does so much work because of that Levitate, so because of its flying type, its Intimidate ability, and its access to Earthquake and Rock Slide. So much power as we go into this game 2, the Pokemon 2018 Latin American International Championships Senior Division Final. Laya Ballerin has to try and take this game of Corey Elliott, otherwise he will be your Senior Division champion.
Yeah, Laya definitely has the correct pieces in order to force this game 3. It's going to come down to whether or not this Charizard can actually do something, because last game Charizard just didn't do anything, and it looks like Laya is actually going to change up the leads here. Going to go with Landorus and Snorlax instead, while Corey leads the exact same thing.
Yeah, so Corey really showing his option here. Zapdos really, really important for setting that speed control. Laya must really be hoping that she can make more use of her Snorlax in this game. Obviously, we know now that a Psychium Z in Psychic Terrain plus the Thunderbolt is enough to pick up the knockout onto that Snorlax without activating its berry. So Snorlax really forced into a position now where it's got to wonder, can I get this belly drum off? Is it worth it? Do I go for a return again? Or am I just going to lose it on the first turn? Snorlax doesn't usually carry Protect.
Yeah, but apparently now a lot of Snorlaxes do carry Protect. It would be nice. Oh, actually straight for the Shattered Psyche.
Wow, so Corey's gone for it. He's going to be releasing that Psychic. He just touched his head a little bit there. Looks like he's worried about what's going to be happening with this turn. It's so much damage coming out from this Tapu Lele, though, as the Shattered Psyche will activate. I wonder if he's gone straight into this Snorlax and will activate the berry instead of actually picking up the knockout.
It actually lands in that Snorlax, but again, that chip damage was so important earlier on from that Zapdos Thunderbolt. Snorlax, a bulky Pokemon, hangs on it and is just going to go ahead and munch away at its berry. So, the Thunderbolt was very important last time. Zapdos going for the Thunderbolt here.
Ooh, it looks like Corey might have slightly forgotten his speed tiers between the Pokemon that he's trained here. The knockoff going off into that Tapu Lele. Unfortunately, because the Psychium Z won't be doing as much damage as it wants to. And the knockout, Tapu Lele. Laya responding in a way that she needed to here, picking up the first knockout of this game, and Corey must really be feeling the pressure after not being able to knock out that Snorlax.
Yeah, now there's no taunt option over on Corey's side to shut down that Snorlax from being able to set up, so this Snorlax might be free to set up, but it does have to be able to survive 2 attacks from the Zapdos and Metagross. Also, no Tailwind up right now for Corey, so we do know that the Zapdos is going to be moving before the Landorus over on Laya's side. Not exactly. I believe the Zapdos does have access to Heat Wave to get some spread damage out and be able to actually do damage to that Landorus, but Landorus just switches out here.
Yeah, very smart conservation of the Intimidate ability. And we see Milotic appearing, for the first time in this set, as Metagross is going to activate its Mega Evolution, gaining its new form as Mega Metagross with the Tough Balls ability, boosting any of its contact moves. Very, very powerful, very strong. Metagross goes for the Ice Punch. It's going to be going into that Snorlax. I thought it was going to go into that Landorus.
That's a double, that's a double.
Here we go, Thunderbolt from that Zapdos, picking up the knockout onto Snorlax, not worrying at all about that Landorus.
Yeah, so Corey right there really predicting right there that Laya would switch out that Landorus and not even worrying about it, you know. Was it really going to go for a possible Earthquake? No, it's really going to protect itself because of that Ice Punch threat. Landorus there can come right back in and use Intimidate though on that Metagross, but it's going to be the Tapu Lele over on Laya's side. No Mega Charizard here.
Yep, and that Tapu Lele in an unfortunate position where Mega Metagross is going to be doing so much damage to it, but we've seen that it does outspeed it in that last game. It is holding that Choice Scarf item, so it will be able to attack first, but Laya really has to worry about what's going to be going into that slot. She might want to try and switch that Landorus in to be able to get the Intimidate onto Mega Metagross to protect either her Milotic or that Tapu Lele. I imagine Milotic in a position where it wants to try and get a school off into that Mega Metagross, which is going to protect though.
Yeah, but it does open up an opportunity for that Zapdos to go straight for a Thunderbolt here. Tapu Lele using Psychic here, going to hit into that Zapdos, big damage, boosted by that Psychic Terrain. Not quite enough to, oh, actually the double up with the Ice Beam here, but that might just activate the Berry. No, yes!
That's a 1 HP or 2 HP survival from that Zapdos. Huge for Corey here as he gets all the way back up to green HP, and Zapdos able to get that Tailwind. The Choice Scarf on Laya's side of the field not mattering too much anymore.
Yeah, so right there, Corey really playing defensively and utilizing this turn to set up that Tailwind. That's going to be huge. We know that that's a Choice Scarf Tapu Lele. Well, now Zapdos is going to be able to survive, going to be able to go through the turn, go for a free Thunderbolt on that Milotic. Metagross is going to go for the Iron Head here. Is it going to be enough? It should. It's not intimidated.
There goes Tapu Lele, another key piece of Laya's team being knocked out here as we see the Zapdos going for the Roost, making sure it can stay around for longer in this game. Doesn't need to start throwing out damage onto that Milotic just yet. But this is the problem once Tailwind goes up. Laya's team really struggling to deal with it. Milotic, not enough damage here. It's going to be taking Zapdos. Look at how much damage that did because of the Roost, losing its flying type there. So Zapdos not taking too much damage at all. Now Landorus forced back into position as it lowers Mega Metagross's physical attack by 1 stage. But Corey in such a commanding position.
Yeah, the Ice Punch, I believe it had to have a little bit more chip damage from the rock side before, but I still think that Ice Punch is going to be definitely enough to get the KO, so it's going to come down to whether or not this Milotic can actually clean up for Laya here. Metagross might not have very powerful attacks that land in that Milotic and does have access to recover as well, but Landorus gets KO'd easily by that Ice Punch right there.
Huge damage coming out from the Mega Metagross as Thunderbolt goes into that Milotic. It will be able to survive this turn, but Laya's chances of becoming the
Needs
Latin
a freeze
American
here.
She's going for it. It's going into that Zapdos. It's going to be doing a nice amount of damage because of the flying type.
No freeze.
No freeze. And Laya's chances of becoming the Latin American International Champion slipping away here. Corey celebrating. We're going to see if Laya's going to play out this turn, but Corey knows in this position he has the option to be able to become the new champion. He's so excited. You can see it on his face now. Each player, they're going to be playing out, and Metagross going for the Stomping Tantrum into that Milotic, 62 HP, down to 0, a Golpe Critical, as we see Corey Elliott Wen is going to be the new Pokemon 2018 Latin American Senior Division Champion.
Congratulations to Corey, well-played tournament throughout. You know, we were able to watch him go from the top 8 to the Elite 4 all the way down to the finals, and here he is, last year's runner-up, now he is the champion.
I'm so excited, Dwee. I mean, like, I'm kind of shaky a little bit. That was such an intense match. So much back and forth. Corey, once again, that Tailwind option proving so vital. You discussed it just before we started the game, and it really was pivotal for him taking control of this match. You can see it on his face, a little shocked, a little dumbfounded that he managed to make it through, and he must be feeling so many emotions right now.
Absolutely. And of course, congratulations as well to his opponent, Laya Ballerine of Peru. A strong showing for Laya. You know, that was a tough matchup right there, and really had to play reactive to Corey, but just fell a little short there.
Yeah, and we talked about that Snorlax and the position it put out, so much offensive potential, but Corey, even in that second game where he wasn't able to deal with it as smoothly as he was in the first game, really managed to neuter the amount of damage that it could do, only allowing it to pick up 1 knockout onto that Tapu Lele, and really took control of the match once that big offensive plus defensive, it takes a lot of damage to be able to knock it out, so it soaks up so much damage and forces your attention. Once he was able to remove that, it became a bit easier for him to set up Tailwind and start working his way through with Mega Metagross.
Yeah, it came down to Corey was the only player that actually brought that Tailwind option. Laya just opted to try to function without the Tailwind, you know, trying to rely on the bulk of that Snorlax to kind of carry, also the bulk of that Milotic as well to carry, but unfortunately it just fell short. You know, Charizard, I think in game 1, that was the most important thing. You know, Charizard needed to be able to do something, but unfortunately, you know, Laya was playing defensively, right? And you absolutely have to respect that. You know, these players are sitting in this hot seat, a lot of pressures on them, all these cameras, all these lights, and, you know, mistakes happen, but still, Laya is a strong player. You know, switching out that Charizard, anybody could have made that play. You know, just protecting that Charizard. There were so many threats out on the field over there on Laya's side. You know, that Zapdos could easily target down with a Thunderbolt. You could easily just lose that Charizard, but
it only becomes a mistake once you see the opposing play, right?
Yeah.
Like, Charizard, a very important Pokemon. It is her Mega Evolution. Deals so much damage, especially with the overheat. And if she found herself in a position to be able to use that, it could have been game-defining. But unfortunately, the resource management on Corey's side of the field, keeping that Landorus around, having that Rock Slide and being able to hit them is really, really key to him taking that first game. And probably put a lot of pressure into Laya's mind to not bring that Charizard, which Corey seemed perfectly content with.
yeah, and, you know, Corey's board position was just amazing, and the way he managed it was just perfect, right? Like, he realized what pieces he needed and when he needed them out. He got them all out on the field at the right time, and he took advantage. He capitalized, and that's why he is your Latin American International Champion.
But as we mentioned in the junior division, seniors are such strong competitors. We were so happy to be able to show you multiple games with them yesterday, and obviously the finals today. And we would really like you to give your applause and give it up for all the trainers who appeared in the senior division, plus your 2 finalists. And we really, really hope that they continue to grow as the season progresses, get their way through to the World Championship, and show another great showing there, and also at the North American International Championships too.
Yeah, the season's not over for either of these players.
No.
The season continues on. I mean, you know, there's still the North American International Championships. There's still regional championships, special events still occurring throughout the world. So definitely use the event locator on Pokemon.com to find your next event. You know, go out to those events and probably see you all at the World Championships. You know, I mean, these trainers still have a lot of opportunities to gain championship points.
That's right, that's right. You got your Premier Challenges, your mid-season showdowns, your regionals, your international championships, and then all leading up to the big event, that huge Pokemon party, the World Championships. And it's going to be in Nashville this year. Really, really excited to see what all these top contender trainers from all age divisions can bring to that.
Yeah, Corey gets to go home with 500 additional championship points. His total is like 1,500 something.
Huge.
It's a big number. Laya also gets to go home with 400 championship points as well. Going to be big, possibly to determine the travel awards to the next big event.
Yep, and that's a really important thing for you trainers at home. If you're looking to get into the Video Game Championship Series, it is not just all events, it's a series. And we're going to be able to see how these trainers have progressed through this one event, but it also does really matter for that invitation to the World Championship. Guys, you can see on the bracket just now, this is your new champion, Corey Elliott Nguyen of Singapore. He must be so, so stoked, Dwee.
I would be too. I mean, he had a tough tournament, you know. Yesterday, just having to face off against Oliver and Alfredo, 2 players that are definitely up there in the standings of the leaderboards, pretty much. And he had to play tough sets here. And, you know, he got a rest after yesterday, coming to this matchup versus Laya, a lot more well-rested. Wasn't the exact same team that Oliver and Alfredo was, so it was a change of pace for Corey here.
Yeah, and Laya obviously had a really tough time in her top 8 match, top 4 match against Juan of Argentina, but she was able to make it through. She also, unfortunately, had to play against a Peruvian player as well in top 8, so Lenin, a player that fell to Laya as she made her way to the finals. But all of these traders must be so proud of their accomplishments. Really great options for them moving into the latter part of the season.
Absolutely. I mean, making it to the top 8 of any tournament really is, it's a feat. So these players to do this on an international stage, you know, you have to be proud of all of the players in this top 8. You have to be proud for all the players that just even came down to compete.
I'm proud, you're proud, and I'm sure that Corey is exceptionally proud of his placing here. He is your new Pokemon 2018 Latin American International Champion, and I believe we're ready to throw over to an interview with him.
Meanwhile, the music's on. Guitar player, keyboard
Thanks, Jay. Thanks, Dwee. And I'm here with your new 2018 Pokemon Latin America International Champion for the Seniors Division. Corey, how does it feel?
Well, it feels great because I was really nervous, but I was happy that I was able to pull through and win.
So why were you nervous? Was there something about Laya's team that you were worried about?
It was more because I have never won at internationals before, and it's really, really nerving to be on the stage.
Yeah, I mean, I feel nervous on here too. So tell me about what was going through your mind in terms of strategy. Like, how are you planning on defeating, her team of the Charizard Y and the Scarf Tapu Lele?
Well, I knew that the Scarf Tapu Lele Shadow Ball couldn't knock out my Lele and Metagross in one hit, so I was able to play around that. And the Charizard Y, I had to conserve Landorus so I could Rock Slide it.
Yeah, that was a really good thing to conserve, especially since those Intimidates helped as well. Were you afraid of the Snorlax?
Yeah, I didn't expect her to bring Snorlax, and Psychium Z does not KO it, so yeah, I was pretty scared of it.
All right, well, you did a really awesome job playing. Was there any turns that you were like especially proud of or especially excited to see play out?
Yeah, maybe the turn where I Iron-headed the Lele in the last match, because I knew that I was gonna win.
Yeah, having that moment, it must have been amazing. So what's next? Are you going to be competing at the World Championships, you think?
Unfortunately, I have a major exam, so I think I will not be going to.
All right, well, hey, you're the new international champion here in Latin America, so that's pretty awesome. And, school's important too, so congratulations, enjoy. And we're going to be coming back with the Masters finals, so please stay tuned, everybody. And again, congratulations.
De volta com o nosso Internacional de Pokémon da América Latina, terceiro dia aqui em São Paulo de competição, dia que a gente começa a conhecer os campeões de cada categoria. 2 campeões já saíram aqui no VG e daqui a pouco a gente vai conhecer o terceiro campeão, campeão da categoria Masters. Back with the 2018 Pokemon Latin America International Championship. This is the our third day of competition. We have now the finals going on right here. We've already know 2 of our champions, and it's almost time to know our third VG champion of the competition of the day. Então agora, finalmente, a gente tem a divisão Master, ou seja, os melhores dos melhores vão subir na nossa arena para disputar esse grande título. E dessa vez, nós temos 2 jogadores da mesma nacionalidade. Não tem mais essa coisa de desafio entre nações diferentes. 2 americanos por aqui. The best of the best will now come to our stage, come to our battle arena, and 2 Americans. We won't have this competition between countries right now. It's US against US. Então é hora de chamar aqui ao palco o primeiro desafiante, o primeiro finalista da nossa categoria Master de VG. Our first contender right now, the first finalist from the Master Division. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up to Carson Confer. E o nosso segundo finalista, o segundo desafiante, também americano, vai desafiar o Carlson por aqui. Senhoras e senhores, preparem-se, hein? Ladies and gentlemen, the second finalist, the second contender to the Master Division Championship. Ladies and gents, give it up for Alberto Lara. So, 2 Americans right now, 2 of the best of the best. I want to know from you guys, from outcasters, what to expect from these 2. Back to you.
Muito obrigado, and welcome back to the 2018 Pokemon Video Game Latin American International Championships. My name is Dweeha. Joining me at this right now is Gabby Snyder, and we are ready to get underway here for the Masters Division Finals.
Best friends back at it for one more time this weekend to crown the final video game champion here in Sao Paulo. It's been such a crazy weekend. You know, we've already had 2 amazing finalists play out in the junior and the seniors division, but the question remains, who will be our master international champion crowned here in Brazil?
The United States pretty much defending the title here in the Latin American International Championships. Of course, Carson Confer and Alberto Lara, 2 players that are, well, they've done well on the international stage so far. Carson, of course, the 2016 Seniors Division World Champion. Alberto Lara has had a string of success at international championships this season at the Oceania International Championships.
Yeah, so both these trainers, you know, I talked to them for a second backstage, and they're very eager to get started. You know, they're ready to go, and, you know, I can't blame them. I mean, it's been such a long, you know, grueling weekend of Pokemon. They have battled to earn their spot here in the finals, and all that's left is just to play the next 1, 2, maybe 3 games to earn them that crown.
2 wins, and they become the Masters Division champion, taking home $2,500 in cash prizes as well as 500 championship points.
It's all on the line.
Yeah, and of course, both players actually had an uphill battle. Even making it to the top cut, both players are actually the lowest seeds in the top 8. We got to watch both of the players compete in the last round of Swiss, trying to punch their ticket to the top 8 and ensure their spot there, but unfortunately they both lost. Carson losing to Eric Rios in the last round of Swiss, and Alberto losing to Jean-Paul Lopez Buiza in the last round of Swiss as well. Alberto had a matchup against Jean-Paul in the first round of the top 8, whereas Carson had a different path, but similar in the fact that he had to play against the exact same team against Alex Gomez, and then had to face off against Eric Rios again.
Yeah, Carson, we were talking about how, he essentially went undefeated against that team yesterday. Yes, he did lose in the last round of Swiss, but he was able to figure out how to best approach that matchup and how to essentially win his way into the finals. And, having to play the same thing over and over again and, beating it is certainly an amazing accomplishment.
Yeah, and now both players on the stage, eager to get underway here for this finals. This is an exciting finals. Both these players have had very strong seasons so far, not just in the North American circuit, but also on the international stage. Let's go ahead and take a quick look at this bracket and see the full path of the players and all of the top 8 players here in the Masters division of the Latin American International Championships. Of course, we've already mentioned it. Carson Confer had to go up against Alex Gomez using the exact same team that Eric Rios used. Alex Gomez and Eric Rios are team-building partners, and, well, Carson was able to trump both of them yesterday in the top cut in, well, really tough matches.
In very tough matches. And then on the other side of the bracket, we have Alberto Lara, who was able to beat Jean-Paul Lopez Buiza, again, his round 8 Swiss loss from Friday, and then defeat Melvin Key from Singapore to move on into the finals. Just really a bracket upset on paper, but you have to remember those Swiss standings, are not indicative of how skillful all these players are. It's more of an indication of what kind of tournament they faced. So all amazing Pokemon trainers, all did an incredible job to earn their spot in the top 8, but it's down to only 2.
And we cannot forget about that prediction that Alberto Lara had to Tectonic Rage into that Cresselia slot
That
as
was
Jean-Paul
so
Lopez Buiza
nuts.
ally switch and protected that Tapu Koko, trying to ensure that that Tapu Koko could survive. So Alberto is an amazing player, but he has one more opponent facing Carson Confer, who is also a tough player as well.
Yeah, you have to wonder, Alberto and Carson must have gone back, reviewed their opponents' teams. We both heard them mention that in their interviews the other day, that they were doing it for the top 8. They have to have an idea of how they're going to approach this matchup, Their teams are so different. Carson, if you think all the way back, has that Rain team with the Politoed, the Ludicolo, the Caesar, whereas Alberto has something a little bit different, relying a little bit more on Trick Room with help from Gengar, Raichu, and, that Tapu Fini, who used that Calm Mind to such a great advantage.
And definitely Alberto might have to look into opting for that Trick Room mode right here. Obviously, Politoed and Ludicolo are going to be very swift swimmers. Well, at least Ludicolo is going to be a swift swimmer here. So try to slow things down a little bit with that Porygon 2 on Alberto's team. Let's pull up Carson Confer's player profile here. His team of Politoed, Ludicolo, Landers Therian, Bisharp, Tapu Koko, and Caesar, the Mega Scissor option that Carson has. Of course, we've already mentioned before, he is the Seniors Division World Champion in 2016. Of course, he was the top 4 of the European International Championships just this past one.
Yeah, and also top 4 at the Dallas Regionals earlier in January as well. Such a fun Rain team. I think a lot of times with Rain, especially in the 2018 metagame, you like to run Pokemon like Pelipper. Ludicolo is a mainstay, I think, for Rain. But other than that, sometimes you'll see like a Mega Metagross. Sometimes you'll see, maybe something like a Ferrothorn. But in this case, the Steel-type Pokemon that Carson's bringing are, that Mega Caesar and that Bisharp, both with which have access to ways to remove, opposing pinch berries, to, priority with that amazing Bullet Punch from the Mega Caesar, and then that Tapu Koko knowing Thunder, using the Rain to get 100% accuracy. It's just such a scary team to face, and Carson's able to pilot it with such precision. You really have to wonder, what is his game plan going into this match? Does he have it already planned out? Because if it's anything like what we saw yesterday, I think he definitely already has an incredible plan to try and stop Alberto from taking the title.
Yep, and one thing that Carson can do to maybe slow down Alberto's opportunities to get up that Trick Room. Caesar, of course, with that priority Bullet Punch, doesn't care if it's operating in Trick Room or not. Also, Bug Bite is a very strong move as well, and Scissor, of course, isn't a speed Pokemon either, so
It is
they can
not a
kind of take
speed
advantage of that Trick
Pokemon.
Room as well. Bisharp can obviously knock off some Eviolites as well. Alberto, multiple regional championship titles under his belt, as well as a top 8 finish at the Oceania International Championships. We've seen how smart of a player he is. We've seen him study tape. He is a very competitive player. He wants to win. Using that team of Gengar, Landorus Therian, Raichu, Tapu Fini, Araquanid, and Porygon 2. Of course, all of these Pokemon are actually nicknamed after his friends, bringing that power of friendship along with them.
Yeah, you have to wonder, though, how much of it is the power of friendship and how much of it is just the power of, pure strategy, pure thought. Just like Carson, Alberto, known to just go in, study his opponents. I think we saw him just get commanding victories, especially in his top 4 match against Melvin Key the other day. Just evidence that he's gone back. He looked at all the potential matchups from, his side of the bracket yesterday, and I would not be surprised if he applied the same sort of, research, study, practice against Carson's team, on paper last night to prepare for this match. It's a very unique team. I don't think we've seen, a totem Pokemon, especially not the Araquanid totem Pokemon yet in the VGC season of 2018. But, we have seen bits and pieces of these Pokemon. Mega Gengar, a fan favorite, using that Shadow Tag ability to keep Pokemon stuck out on the field. Raichu with the Lightning Rod ability to redirect electric attacks. Landorus Therian, a Pokemon that needs no introduction to the VGC circuit. Tapu Fini, Porygon 2 as well. Just all very strong, very consistent Pokemon.
And you can't forget about the fact that if the rain gets set up, that is actually good for that Araquanid.
It is.
If the Trick Room can come up too, that Araquanid's going to be doing work with those very powerful Water Bubble, same type attack boosted.
Weather boosted.
Weather boosted liquidations, as well as being able to threaten that Ludicolo with Bug Bites. So that Araquanid is going to be huge as well. Raichu can come in easily as well to deal with that Tapu Koko. So Alberto definitely does have the pieces to try to combat against Carson. So, it's going to be this hyper-offensive rain team versus Alberto, maybe trying to slow things down just a little bit.
Yeah, you have to wonder if you're Carson, what kind of strategy do you take? I mean, I feel like the Araquanid is a given almost because of how much Alberto would benefit from having Trick Room on the field. Given how fast Carson's Pokemon are, maybe you don't bring the Politoed into Game 1. It seems incredibly counterintuitive. Your Tapu Koko wants that thunder. It wants that accuracy. The Ludicolo, of course, loves using that Swift Swim to its advantage. And we saw it use those incredible rain-boosted Hydro Vortexes as well. But if you're looking at this team, if you're looking at trying to stop Trick Room, one thing that will put yourself at an immediate disadvantage is just giving your Pokemon more speed. So maybe you try to rely on the Bisharp, maybe you try and rely on that priority Bullet Punch from the Mega Caesar and just hope that your opponent maybe isn't able to set up that Trick Room before you're able to knock out those key Pokemon like that Araquanid.
And here we go. Both players have locked in their selections. We are ready to get started here in the Masters Finals between Carson Confer and Alberto Lara. Give it up for both of these amazing trainers here in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Of course, Carson probably just gonna have to outmuscle Alberto here using all the tricks in the book. That Scissor can have access to Sword Dance. Can Sword Dance try to set up and try to maybe pick off some things with Bullet Punch?
Bullet Punch is a beautiful move to do that too. And again, it doesn't matter if Trick Room's set up, but no Trick Room at least yet from Alberto.
Double steal leads here for Carson. It is going to be that Caesar and the Bisharp. Tapu Fini and Raichu leads for Alberto. So the Raichu there does get access to Fake Out for this turn. Can help that Tapu Fini set up.
It can, but you have to wonder, both these Steel-type Pokemon are known to be physical attackers, and that Calm Mind will only boost its special defense, not its physical defense. So yes, Raichu can fake out one of these Pokemon. It can stop it from attacking this turn, but maybe, a Bullet Punch, and then next turn doubling into that Tapu Fini with both that Caesar and that Bisharp might be a way to knock it out before it's able to set up.
Mega Scissor is going to take the field here as the Raichu uses Fake Out. It is going to make that Scissor not be able to move here as Bisharp goes for the Iron Head. It is going to hit that Tapu Fini, doing about 40% right there as Tapu Fini, no setup, just going to go straight for the Muddy Water. Can possibly get some accuracy drops, but that is dangerous for Bisharp's Defiant ability here as the Scissor does flinch. No accuracy drop right there, so, well, that's a double-edged sword right there if it does get an accuracy drop.
It is a double-edged sword, but for now, not something that Alberto has to worry about, and especially since that Muddy Water put Bisharp into knockout range even without that boost. It's possible that after one Calm Mind, it might even be able to knock it out, so that's great information for Alberto to know moving forwards. Now he has to worry about this Mega Caesar and that Bullet Punch. You know, it's possible that Raichu is going to be able to attack once this turn, maybe before retreating into the safety of Alberto's party so he can send out something else, but we know that the Raichu has knockoff. It might try and figure out what item that Bisharp is holding, or maybe now it's time to protect the Tapu Fini.
Raichu could even possibly try to go for a KO on that Bisharp with an attack of its own. Here comes the Volt Switch. It is actually going to target down that Scissor, bring it down to under 50%, and now Alberto gets to adjust. Scissor and Bisharp are going to be staying in here. What can deal with any attack that this Scissor or the Bisharp can really dish out? It is going to be that Porygon 2. That is going to get a download boost here, and it is going to be a special attack boost, so that's very good for that Porygon 2. Bisharp now using knockoff, going to knock off that Eevee Light, though, so now that Porygon 2 won't be as bulky, and here comes the Bug Bite into that Tapu Fini Protect, trying to steal a berry off that Tapu Fini.
You know, I really like that play, because if Tapu Fini hadn't protected and gone for an attack, you know, it would have been very possible that that Caesar would have loved to consume the Wiki Berry that we saw Tapu Fini holding the other day, but you have to wonder, would that potentially confuse that Caesar? If it doesn't like the taste of that berry, that could have forced Carson to switch it out and have to adjust this turn.
Bisharp uses Iron Head, Porygon 2 hangs on. Tapu Fini is going to use Muddy Water here. That is going to hit both the Bisharp and that Scissor, getting the KO on that Bisharp, and Scissor hangs on with just a little bit of health here. Going to be able to move, going to use Bug Bite. It connects on that Tapu Fini and is going to steal that Wiki Berry from that Tapu Fini with a critical hit for extra damage on top as Scissor eats away and heals back 50% of its health.
But will it like the taste if it's confused? But wait, actually, the Misty Terrain prevents it from getting confused even if it doesn't like the taste. So Carson just using that mechanic to his advantage, getting his Caesar back up to full health, just very well played.
Yeah, and Porygon 2 flinches right there, so no chance for Porygon 2 to double up into that Scissor and get a KO. So Ludicolo is going to take the field. Ludicolo also does have access to Fake Out, but this is actually a dangerous position for Alberto. He could easily lose 2 Pokemon.
You know, that Porygon 2 could have also been going for the Trick Room that turn, and if it were to have flinched there, you know, that could be detrimental to Alberto, because it's very likely that this Ludicolo and this Mega Caesar are going to be able to knock it out at this point, and if that Araquanid is in the back of its party, it's not going to be in a good spot.
Tapu Fini gets KO'd by the Energy Ball from that Ludicolo as Scissor uses Bug Bite, and that is 2 KOs over on Alberto's side. So Carson Confer sitting pretty right now with that Scissor and that Ludicolo. It's going to come down to that Raichu over on Alberto's side and the last hidden Pokemon.
And what that Pokemon is will tell us, I think, his strategy for going into these games. You know, I'm expecting to see the Araquanid, which is indeed the Pokemon that is sent out onto the field. So I think it's safe to say that Alberto really wanted that Trick Room there. He's going to have one chance to attack right now thanks to the Fake Out that the Raichu brings to the field. But if you think about it, Ludicolo knows that Energy Ball can attack that Araquanid. That Mega Caesar as well has Bug Bite. That Araquanid is holding, you know, another one of those pinch berries like we saw yesterday. And the Misty Terrain is still up on the field as well. So if Alberto's able to knock out, you know, maybe the Mega Caesar this turn before it loses its berry, and then can attack the Ludicolo with a Bug Bite of its own next turn, that might be helpful for Alberto, but it's going to be so hard to accomplish.
Raichu uses Fake Out onto that Scissor slot. Scissor is not going to be able to go for a possible Swords Dance setup or even try to do some extra damage over on Alberto's side. Ludicolo now activating its Waterium Z, going to go for this Hydro Vortex, going to get the KO on this Raichu here easily. Such a strong attack coming from that Ludicolo, not even rain boosted, but that still is massive damage. Raichu actually hangs on with just a sliver of health as the liquidation from that Araquanid hits into that Scissor slot. Does a lot of damage right there, but again, because it munched away on that berry earlier on, it survives with, again, about the same amount of health as before.
It does, and that's such a great spot for Carson to be in. You know, yes, that Raichu does move faster than the Mega Caesar, but if that Mega Caesar has the Bullet Punch, which I'm pretty sure we saw the other day, it can just Bullet Punch that Raichu for the knockout, bringing it down to just one Pokemon on Alberto's side of the field versus Carson's 3 remaining Pokemon. Yes, Mega Caesar won't be able to consume that berry because of the bullet punch, but it could stick around on the field. Araquanid could target really either of these Pokemon. Alberto just needs to figure out maybe what does he think Carson has in the back, and if he can take it, what that plan's going to be, or if he should just try, maybe knock out the Mega Caesar this turn, knowing that he probably won't be able to win this game, but he'll know the last Pokemon for the next game.
Caesar actually protects here, not going to try to pick off the Raichu with the bullet punch, as Raichu uses a Volt Switch into that protect. Ludicolo uses Energy Ball into that Araquanid. This opens up
into the
Raichu gets the KO there, so no bullet punch from that Caesar, and the liquidation again just going into that Caesar protect, so Alberto really trying to prioritize getting that KO on that Caesar.
Yeah, Alberto wanted that information, but Carson with the protect completely blocked him from getting it. I think Alberto double targeted into that Mega Caesar, hoping that, if Bullet Punch were to knock out that Raichu, it would be the Araquanid's job to pick up that knockout, but no, Carson protecting his own Mega Caesar, relying on the slower Ludicolo to knock out that Raichu, knowing that even if Raichu were to attack it, it's not going to stop Ludicolo. Ludicolo can get that KO, and now Alberto is just looking at losing that Araquanid, and Carson looking like he can take game one.
Yeah, great realization right there from Carson to single out that Scissor is going to be Alberto's main target, so beautiful protect right there.
Yes, and that's the kind of play you need if you want to be crowned the international champion here at one of these big tournaments.
And Alberto is not going to reveal any more information at all to Carson, although probably all the information is already in Carson's mental mind right now, mental bank. Already knows exactly what sets Alberto is running. So Carson takes game one here in the finals against Alberto Lara, and Carson just needs one more if he wants to finally add the title of international champion to his belt.
Yes, both trainers played very well, but you have to remember that Porygon 2 would have gotten Trick Room up if it weren't for that Iron Head flinch from the Bisharp. You have to wonder, if you're in Alberto's shoes, that flinch is not something that's likely to happen. Do you take the risk and try running the same Pokemon in the same way in hopes that you don't get flinched that next time? It looks like he already locked in, so if that is his plan, that this could be an indication of that. But on the other hand, we've seen Alberto utilize the time in between turns, especially towards the end of the game, to think. So, if I were him, I'd probably try and mix it up. I don't think you want to rely on any kind of chance, regardless of how low of a chance it is, for your strategy when you're trying to come back from a loss in game one of the finals of a tournament. Just try maybe fake out Porygon 2, or fake out with Raichu, Trick Room with Porygon 2, and just hope that you're able at that point to get Araquanid in safely and get those knockouts before it's too late.
And the same leads are sent out by both players. Alberto definitely had a shot if that Trick Room did come up. Going to try to use his Tapu Fini here to get some spread damage out over onto Carson's two steel types, that Scissor and that Bisharp.
You have to wonder, that Muddy Water was the 2-hit knockout on that Bisharp. It looked like maybe a 3-hit on that Mega Caesar. Maybe Calm Mind would be something interesting to try here. I don't think it would be a little bit risky, but he needs to figure out a way to come back that's not just solely dependent on Trick Room.
Fake out from that Raichu, hits into that Caesar slot again, going to make it flinch. Bisharp going for another Iron Head. This is playing out the exact same way. Pretty much as game one, Muddy Water from that Tapu Fini hits both the Scissor and the Bisharp here. Going to do spread damage. Bisharp actually will be able to hang on to one more. So this right here was a lower roll than in game one.
Yeah, it was, and that might work out in Carson's favor. I want to see what's going to happen now with, the Bisharp with this Mega Caesar. We're probably going to see Bisharp try and knock off, or I guess Mega Caesar could even, again, use that Bug Bite to consume that Tapu Fini's berry. Raichu might want to switch out on the field, but maybe a knockoff here could be helpful as well. Again, we don't really know what that Bisharp is holding. Alberto really needs to think closely about his position. If you think back to game one, this was the turn when he got caught on a switch. That Porygon 2 came in for the Raichu spot on the field and lost its Eviolite.
And it is the Porygon 2 switching into the other side here. The download is going to go ahead and boost that special attack by one stage. It's going to be an encore now into that Bisharp, just going to force it into Iron Head instead of that knockoff, trying to preserve the items over on Alberto's side. Iron Head connects into that Porygon 2 slot, doing about 30% right there. And here comes a bug bite from that scissor trying to eat that Wiki Berry from that Tapu Fini, but that still does so much damage.
Alberto, that was such a great use of Encore. Not only does he prevent, knockoff from ever being selected at this point from the Bisharp, he's also sort of forced Carson to either accept that, yes, I'm going to be using Iron Head for the next 3 turns, or potentially until that Bisharp is knocked out. This Caesar, I liked the double into that slot, even though the Eviolite is still being held by that Porygon 2. The Porygon 2 is within range, and it's possible that another Iron Head with a Bug Bite would do enough damage to knock it out, again, before the Trick Room can be set up on the field.
Volt Switch charging down that Scissor, going to bring it down to 80 hit points remaining. Alberto gets a switch in one Pokemon here to try to combat the Scissor and the Bisharp here, but Porygon 2 right now is in danger of getting KO'd without being able to set up that Trick Room, so Alberto might have to try to adjust his game plan here to plan for no Trick Room coming up.
Yeah, and that's going to be really tough if that last Pokemon he brought is, again, that Araquanid. Araquanid, it's such a strong Pokemon, but unfortunately that comes at the cost of its speed. It needs Trick Room. It just really needs to be able to move first. Otherwise, it starts taking damage, and then it just sort of goes all downhill from there.
Tapu Fini is going to take the field here. The Iron Head from that Bisharp gets almost the KO on that Porygon 2, but it looks like it's going to be a double up with that Bug Bite. Carson really worried about that Trick Room coming up to set up for that possible Araquanid in the back.
Definitely, and I can't blame him. I mean, if you think about it, last game he almost left it up to chance for that Trick Room. By doubling into it this time around, that's the insured way to not have to get it up. And now, this Tapu Fini's out on the field. Yes, that Muddy Water could probably knock out that Bisharp if it gets another high damage roll, but, there's still the Mega Caesar that Alberto has to worry about, and we don't even know what Carson's brought in the back in terms of his Pokemon.
Raichu takes the field again, does have access to that Fake Out again, and this Muddy Water, it's going to be close as to whether or not he can KO the Scissor and the Bisharp in one go, but that's going to be huge for Alberto if he can get it.
Yeah, and I think Carson's done a really good job of taking advantage of something that's sort of apparent when you look at Alberto's 6 Pokemon on his team. Bisharp and Caesar are both Steel-type Pokemon. They're very weak to Fire-type attacks, and, Alberto doesn't really have any Fire-type Pokemon, doesn't really have any, Fighting-type Pokemon. He has that Landorus Therian, which has access to Earthquake, but with Water-type Pokemon on Carson's side of the field everywhere, Ice Beam would just be easily able to counter that.
Ludicolo switches in, but Raichu just going to go straight for a Volt Switch instead. Alberto now is going to reveal his last Pokemon. This is going to be a big, important Pokemon to have if he wants to be able to come back. It is going to be that Araquanid, again, functioning outside of Trick Room. Araquanid is not a speed Pokemon at all. Bisharp using Iron Head onto that Tapu Fini. It does get to access its berry this time, not stolen away by that Scissors Bug Bite just yet. Healing back 50% with that Wiki Berry here. Here comes a Muddy Water. Bisharp actually dodges the attack though, and this is just going to do nothing at all to the quadruple resist of that Ludicolo. Might get an accuracy drop though, and it does, so that might be big, not allowing Ludicolo to connect on its wanted attacks.
Yes, Ludicolo, we know it has Hydro Pump, which isn't that accurate, but I highly doubt that it'd be wanting to use that right now. Instead, Energy Ball is probably the move of choice, but, this was a switch from Carson to protect the Mega Caesar in the back of his party. Maybe now's the time to send that Mega Caesar back in. We know that the Bisharp is free to attack again with whatever it wants. An Iron Head into that Tapu Fini wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, but it looks like that Tapu Fini is leaving the field instead.
Raichu's going to take the field here as the Araquanid protects. Not going to want to take damage here at all. Going to preserve the health of that Araquanid. That's going to be important if that Araquanid wants to be able to come back. Bisharp going for that knockoff, doubling up into that, so Raichu gets to come in for free as the mist disappears from the field, but that's not going to matter too much at all.
That wasn't even a double up. That Ludicolo actually missed the Energy Ball on the Raichu. I don't think that would have knocked out, but still, Raichu's at full health, and that could be huge. Alberto needs anything he can get at this point. Now he can use the Fake Out to stop Ludicolo from attacking this turn, have Araquanid maybe attack it, or attack that Bisharp for a knockout, and just try and even up the score. I can't stress this enough. He needs to do damage. He's been forced to do so many switches. Carson's just been whittling away at his entire team.
And Raichu goes for the Fake Out in that Bisharp right there. Alberto probably expecting that Ludicolo to kind of leave the field, not allowing it to get faked out and KO'd by a possible Bug Bite, but Ludicolo stays in, going to use Hydro Vortex here, and that is going to be the KO on that Raichu.
And I think once Ludicolo uses this Hydro Vortex, it's okay if it gets knocked out. I mean, this is probably the most damage it'd be able to do in this game at this point in time. Carson.
Right, that's right. It hangs on with just a couple of hit points right there, as now the Arachnid uses Bug Bite, going to hit into that Ludicolo slot and get the KO.
Yeah, so this Ludicolo has done its job. You know, it's gotten the Raichu down into bullet punch range, definitely. So that Mega Caesar can come back out, or if Carson wants, he can reveal that last Pokemon, but it looks like he's going to be keeping it a secret still.
It is that Caesar right there. Of course, it can threaten that Raichu with a Bullet Punch, but it can also just steal the berry away from the Arachnid with a Bug Bite. So
without that misty terrain, though, do you want to risk getting confused?
I don't think that berry is actually going to be the confusing one for the Scizor.
That's fair. We'll have to find out. I mean, it's definitely a gamble. It's probably something that Carson, knows himself, having reviewed Alberto's matches on stream the other day. But still, Alberto needs to figure out a way to knock out both these Pokemon somehow. If he can bring it down to like either 1-on-1 or 1-on-2, he might have a shot. Both this Bisharp and this Mega Caesar have been incredibly weakened. They're at the point where only a single liquidation from that Arachnid should be able to pick up that knockout. He just needs to figure out a way to maneuver it that way.
Arachnid protects itself here. Not going to want to get its berry stolen. Bisharp going for the Sucker Punch, though. Oh, yeah, it hits into that Raichu slot and gets the KO right there. So there's the priority move to make sure that Raichu cannot go for a Volt Switch, as Scizor goes for a Bug Bite into that Arachnid slot. No berry for that Scizor just yet.
No berry for the Caesar just yet, and that Tapu Fini is going to come out onto the field. Alberto is down to his last two Pokemon. If he wants to keep his dream of being the next Latin America International Champion alive, these two Pokemon need to figure out a way to knock out the three remaining on Carson's side of the field. They certainly have the potential. We saw that Muddy Water from that Tapu Fini deal so much damage without a Calm Mind boost. It's something that Alberto can use, but it has to be able to move in order to do that.
Is this Tapu Fini going to be able to go for that Muddy Water? And it flinches! As the Scizor goes for a Bug Bite, hits into that Arachnid slot, it is going to heal back 50% of its health, stealing that Figgy Berry from that Arachnid. And that is just an unfortunate turn of events for Alberto because, well, now that Scizor's going to be sitting healthy right now. Liquidation hits into that Scizor slot, does good damage, but again, another Iron Head will be able to get the KO onto that Tapu Fini, so that was a big flinch right there for Carson.
That was arguably just as big of a flinch as we saw in Game 1, stopping the Trick Room. This Iron Head now will be able to knock out that Tapu Fini. Muddy Water won't be able to knock out either of these Pokemon, and Scizor, honestly...
And here comes the Bug Bite, and that actually will do it.
It's gonna do it,
That
yes.
does it. Carson Confer is your 2018 Pokemon video game Latin American International Champion.
Again, just such well played by both these trainers. I think Carson knew exactly what Pokemon, exactly what moves he wanted to use. And Alberto, he had a strategy. It's just really unfortunate that the things didn't line up quite right for him to get it out onto the field. That first time around, that Porygon 2 got flinched. The second time around, it just took too much damage. It couldn't use Trick Room. And that's the downside of using a team, that relies on Trick Room. You need to have a way to get it up regardless of what your opponent does.
Yeah, looking back at Game 1, well, Alberto, not only did he get his Porygon 2 also got its item knocked off right away.
It did.
And that made Alberto react a little bit differently in Game 2, really worrying about the Porygon 2 Eevee getting knocked off, so Alberto actually locked the Bisharp into Iron Head, but at that point it honestly didn't mind it, because once that Porygon 2 came in, well, it just took so much damage and it just was unable to set up Trick Room, so Alberto just couldn't set up Trick Room.
Yeah, and I think Carson actually did a great job of predicting where that Porygon 2 was going to switch into. You have to remember, it didn't switch into the same spot. In Game 1, Tapu Fini remained on the field. In Game 2, it was Raichu, so just correctly calling that switch, punishing Alberto for it, and yes, he couldn't knock off the Eviolite, but when you can just do enough damage to knock out a Pokemon, you don't have to worry about its, extra high defenses.
Yep, and then it ultimately came down. Alberto fought back valiantly.
He did
it
an
came down
amazing job
to
of
whether
fighting
or not
back.
that Tapu Fini could actually hit with that Muddy Water, but the Muddy Water just didn't come out because that Tapu Fini flinched from that Iron Head from that Bisharp.
Yeah, and I think that's why Iron Head, I personally really like it as a move. Yes, it's not the most powerful Steel-type move you can use. I think some trainers who are familiar with the Metagross might know of Meteor Mash, which is amazing.
It's actually the same base power now.
It is? Oh, never mind.
Yep.
Well, Iron Head, it doesn't have the risk to miss like Meteor Mash, so you gotta wonder, all the times you use it, all those times it has to flinch. Yes, there are going to be some times where it works against your favor, but sometimes you're the one who gets the lucky flinch, and that's enough to carry you into the title of International Champion.
Yeah, and you got to congratulate